Hi Camels, my name is Emily Mauro and I'm the Assistant Track and Field Coach at Connecticut College. I received a bachelor's from Merrimack College in athletic training and I received my master's in sports psychology and motor behavior from the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how exercise can benefit you and how you can realistically work it into your daily routine. So there are three main ways that exercise can really benefit you as an individual, and that's for your mind, your body, and your spirit. So we'll start with the mind. There's some really incredible research that's been done by John Rady, and if you're interested in the topics I talk about, you should check out the book Spark. That's where I get a lot of this information from. So the main thing that exercise helps with your mind is that it improves mood and it improves motivation. And it does that through this neurotransmitter called dopamine. Many of us are familiar with dopamine, and it's almost synonymous with happy. So it's our main neurotransmitter for our reward center. And anytime our body senses dopamine, we have this sense of accomplishment, this sense that the task we just did mattered, and this sense of bliss. So dopamine is great. We love dopamine, and when we exercise, we actually receive a big dose of dopamine. This can also be referred to as runner's high. So when we get that rush of dopamine, our body is not only having a higher influx of that neurotransmitter, but we're also making our brain more susceptible to noticing dopamine in the body. So the next time that we have a big rush, we'll sense even more of the particles drifting through our blood. That's incredible. So when we work out and we get this big rush of dopamine, we increase our feelings of accomplishment, we increase our feelings of our ability to do things, we increase our confidence, and we also increase our want to achieve more. That sense of motivation, the pride that we just completed something great and that we can do it again. We feel ready to work, we feel more awake, and we're able to practice things like goal setting, creating a culture of accomplishment, and self-care. So that is our first way that our mind benefits through exercise. Another way, and this is most incredible, especially for our students, but has an effect on all ages, is that exercise actually helps us increase our ability to learn. That's right, you can get smarter just by working out. Insane, right? So there was a study done in Naperville, Illinois, right outside of Chicago, where a gym class had began before classes started during the day. And students came and they would work out for 20 to 30 minutes, and then they would go throughout the rest of their day and do their classes. And at first, of course, the students hated it. They didn't like smelling for the rest of the day. But what they found was that these students had a 70% increase in reading comprehension as compared to their non-exercise counterparts who only had a 10% increase. Research was so excited about this find that they decided to look more into it, and they found that this was true across all ages, that exercise before a task actually increased our brain's ability to learn. And the reason it did this was this miracle, we call it miracle grow for the brain, called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. And what BDNF does is it surrounds the synapses between your neurons. So synapse is a fancy word for connections, and it creates this predisposed ability to connect. And when our neurons make connections with one another, we create an ability to learn. We create new pathways within our brain, which make us more creative. They make us quicker thinkers, and they make us able to retain information better. So if you have a hard task or a project that seems daunting or a presentation at work that you're feeling really nervous about, if you work out for 20 to 30 minutes prior to beginning your work, your brain will actually be functioning at a higher rate and a higher ability. Now the next way I'm going to talk about how exercise benefits you is by your body. And many of us know this, we've seen the research, we've taken gym class, we've taken health, we understand. And some of the ways that exercise can help us with our body is it increases our ability to utilize oxygen. We actually get better at breathing. Ridiculous, right? So we're able to utilize oxygen better, which makes oxygen absorption in our tissues better as well. So that's improving circulation. It also helps improve posture by strengthening our muscles. It can help prevent and manage type 2 diabetes. And most importantly, it helps lower our heart rate and lower our blood pressure, which helps fight against the number one cause of death in the United States, which is heart disease. Lastly, I'll talk to you about how exercise can help your spirit. And now when I'm talking about your spirit, I'm not necessarily talking about religion or where you identify there, but it's more about your connection to yourself. So when we exercise, it's one of the few times in our lives where we're able to disconnect from the world around us. We're plugged in so much now, especially with our countless Zoom calls, our Slack, our Google Teams, and then we have our computers and our televisions and our email right to our phone, which now goes right to our watch. So it's important that we provide some time to ourselves throughout the day where we're able to disconnect from the world around us, from all of those distractions, and reconnect with ourselves. And when we do that, we allow ourselves to be aligned in the present moment. And being aligned in the present moment is so difficult to do. We often worry about the future, the uncertainty it holds, or we're angry about our past, an event that happened, or sometimes we merge the two, the past and the future, and we say, I'm not even going to apply to that job because I'm just going to get laid off like last time. And all of these worries, all of these fears, all of this anger, all of this anxiety can disappear if we allow ourselves to be in the present moment. All of those things are not where we are right now. And now that's easier said than done. But when we live in the present moment, we find peace. We stop harboring those negative emotions. We decrease our anxiety, and we're able to give 100% of ourselves. We're able to be more productive, we're able to be the most efficient, and we're able to be fully engaged. We're also predisposed to this idea, this thing called flow that we often hear in athletics, and we chase it because that's when we tend to have our best performances. Flow is a state of higher functioning when you're almost not thinking, you're just doing, and you're doing great. I don't know if anyone's seen the Jordan documentaries lately, but many people attribute his success to his ability to be constantly in the present moment and find flow. So in order to help ourselves do that, we need to disconnect and reconnect to ourselves. And exercise is a great way to do that. Another way that it helps our spirit is locus of control. And I talked about anxiety a little bit, that uncertainty. Humans like to be in control. We like to have control of our schedule. We like to know what's going to happen in the future. And we like to feel like we had some part in deciding that. Right now, things are quite out of control. But there are small things in your schedule that you can give the control back to yourself. Exercise and creating your own routine is one of those things. So we understand the benefits, we're excited about exercise, but how do we use it? So the first is to build a routine, setting a consistent wake-up time, consistent meal times, and consistent time where you go to sleep. And in this routine, also build in exercise. Now, it's best to schedule exercise right before a difficult or daunting task. As we spoke about before, right after you exercise, your brain has that rush of dopamine, it has that rush of BDNF, and it's ready to go, it's supercharged, right? So although this can help us throughout the day, it is most powerful right after we exercise. So if you have a big presentation, you have a big project that you need to do, exercise, and then get to work. And it doesn't take hours upon hours to get these effects. The smallest amount of exercise that is shown to give you a big result is 20 to 30 minutes of aerobic exercise. So aerobic is biking, swimming, running, any exercise that you can do consistently for 20 to 30 minutes. And your effort level should be at an effort where you could sustain that effort for an hour if you had to. Another great way to help incorporate exercise and utilize it to your best ability is to change your thought pattern on that. So oftentimes we find ourselves saying, oh, I have to work out. Change that mindset to, I get to work out. I am able to work out. What an exciting experience it sounds like when you talk to yourself positively about it. As always, start slow and follow your doctor's recommendations. Now, maybe your goal is to work up to 20 or 30 minutes a day, but let's start with 10 to 15 and see how we feel maybe 3 to 4 times a week, making sure we have consistent recovery, and then we can slowly add more days or longer intervals to our training schedule. The biggest takeaway that I want you to realize from this little talk here is that our brains their original purpose was to perform complex movements. When you take movement away, the brain actually shrinks, and that was shown in koalas. As soon as they were able to be more efficient at utilizing energy and they had to move less, their brains actually shrunk, which is pretty shocking, right? So when we live a sedentary lifestyle, we're actually depriving our brain of the nutrients it needs to grow, and more importantly, we're depriving ourselves of what we need to become our best self. So please stay safe and stay moving.